Hello, everyone, and I'm going to own up to it straight away. I pressed the wrong button. I meant to do the countdown and then go into the intro, but instead you got the intro and then the countdown. So anyway, excuse me for pressing that wrong button. I hope everyone is well, and welcome to another Friday night feature. Of course, tonight you can see by the title, and you can probably tell because we are in the build-up to Money in the Bank, which is happening tomorrow in Toronto. We're going to be talking about Money in the Bank tonight. We're also going to have a little bit of a chat about NXT Heatwave at the end as well, but that one's going to be a little bit quicker. It's just myself again tonight, I believe. The lads from Give Me Oh Yeah are all otherwise engaged. So I hope you don't mind putting up with me again. I'm going to keep this one nice and brief. We're going to race through some of the predictions. We're going to have a bit of a look down the card for Money in the Bank as well. But of course, I'm not alone because you guys are going to be dropping your comments in. We'll make this a chat. I can see Mark is doing his thing in the chat as well. Our trusty moderator. I hope you're all well. It's been a great week. I turned 35. I know I don't look it, but I have a birthday on Wednesday. So if you want to say happy birthday, drop me a message. Let me know you're in. Let me know what you're planning for the weekend for Money in the Bank and also for NXT Heatwave as well. But it's good to be on, as always, on a Friday evening here. We are 10 p.m. in the UK, but welcome in wherever you are in the world, whether it be in the UK or further afield. Always good to have you in. But yeah, it's one of my favourite events. I love Money in the Bank because I love ladder matches. I think this goes back to all the way back to the ladder matches when we used to have them for TLC with the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian and Dudley's. I developed a bit of a love for them. Alpha gingered it and said, "Happy 53rd birthday." I'm not that old. It's the other way around in those numbers, but good to have you in anyway. Thank you for that. John G. Sam's not here. He's partying up. It's Andy tonight, but I don't know if you saw earlier on. Sam is going to be taking a little bit of a break from doing the SmackDown streams on a Friday. He's just got a, it takes its toll when you're doing those streams until 3 a.m. And at the end of the day, a lot of the time you're only getting about 40 minutes worth of matches or content and things like that. So it's a lot of advert breaks to stay up for the UK, but he will not be going anywhere. He's still very much part of the Give Me Oh Yeah family. And it's always great to have Sam in, but he's taking another week off, and I think he's at a party or something, so he'll be having a great time on Friday evening, as we're all going to have a great time on this Friday evening here. And yeah, thanks, Alpha Ginger. We all get old, got to age gracefully. Well, hopefully you agree I am doing that. We've also got Jake in, who says, "Hi, always good to see you in, Jake, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Don't worry, John, it happens. I say I'm 35 this week, so I'm getting older and I forget names and confused with names all the time anyway. But you've got me, Andy. I'm here tonight with you guys. So let's throw up a lovely graphic there. So we've got the Money in the Bank preview show tonight. Let's get straight in there. I don't know if anyone saw, we did have last night, Sami Zayn was doing his comedy show up in Toronto. It seems like they're trying to build this up to be like a big weekend and like weekend long event. So he did his comedy show with, I believe, Bailey showed up and Cody Rhodes was there. And we also got Johnny Knoxville, who seems to be making his appearance with Sami Zayn every time Sami Zayn's doing it. I think he was on his Netflix show that he did as well. So yeah, good to see that, because I really enjoyed their match at WrestleMania a few years ago. It could have been awful, could have been really cheesy, and some may say it was, but I personally think it was actually very well done. Really good fun, exactly what wrestling should be, and provided that kind of comedic relief on a big card on that night. But yeah, I thought it was really good. So good to see this is kind of carrying on, even though Sammy's a bit more serious these days. And let's not forget, the last time he was involved with Johnny Knoxville, that eventually returned into his run with the Bloodline as well. So maybe there's time for that to kind of come full circle and he help out the Bloodline whenever Roman returns. We will get into Bloodline stuff. But first, we are going to talk about the men's Money in the Bank match. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, what your predictions, what we're going with. So we've got LA Knight, we've got Drew McIntyre, we've got Carmelo Hayes, Chad Gable, Jey Uso, and El Idolo himself as well. So yeah, let me know who are you predicting, because there is a lot to unpack in this match. Because with the likes of Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, this is a great platform. I don't think they're going to necessarily win it, but I think this is one where a lot of people are predicting this could get quite overbooked because a few of these guys are in feuds outside of this match, and it's whether that factors into the final result here. So obviously Chad Gable, we can start there. He's had a lot of run-ins with the likes of the Wyatt family. He's got stuff still going on with Alpha Academy as well. Will the Wyatt Six, sorry, not the Wyatt family, will the Wyatt Six get involved? Will CM Punk get involved and cost Drew McIntyre again? Or will LA Knight be cost his chance at the Money in the Bank? And will that lead into something for SummerSlam? Because let's not forget, he's got Logan Paul very much in sights for that US title. So do we see Logan Paul get involved? So do we see all of them? I think that would be horrifically overbooked if they do. But we're getting a lot of comments here that seem to suggest that LA Knight, is going to be the one who takes away the briefcase. Be interested to see if he is the one who takes it away. Would he cash it in on the US title? Because that seems like a very silly thing to do when you're LA Knight and you believe in yourself as much as he does. Surely he would go after one of the world titles. But let me know. What do you reckon? LA Knight, if he wins it, who's he going to cash in on? Would he stay on SmackDown or would he make an appearance on Raw? Lots of questions going on at the moment. And I'd love to tell you the answers, but it's just fun to speculate, I guess. So yeah, we've got Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, I think, is maybe the one to watch because let's not forget the next one that we've got is going to be SummerSlam, and I believe it's in Cleveland. So I think there's a lot of potential of things going on in this match, and whether that leads to maybe a shock win, that would be an interesting one for someone like Carmelo Hayes if they wanted to shoot him to the top. But I think they need to build his character out more because Money in the Bank and a briefcase and that guaranteed shot is a fantastic way to skyrocket someone's popularity. But if you don't have any kind of base, now a lot of people would know Carmelo Hayes and his great work in NXT, but on the main roster, he's got a lot of work to do to try and put that, get himself over. So yeah, the briefcase could work, but I still think you'd be looking at a long hold on to that contract before he'd be able to cash in. The people would legitimately see him as that kind of style and to carry that one of the world titles anyway. And then we get to the stuff. Let's have a look. Jey Uso, I thought would be the one who's the overwhelming favourite to win this. He's still getting all this the pop. I have a theory I'm going to share with you guys. I think the Wyatt Six are the ones to watch to get involved in this. And I don't think they're going to be coming for Chad Gable. I think some of the comments that are made have been talking about turning your back on family or, messing with your family. And some of it could be construed, as Chad Gable said, that it could be talking about Jey Uso. Now, there's also that link with the Fireflies and things like that. And he seems to kind of always be around when it happens. So do we see the Wyatt Six come out? Everyone thinks they're going to cost Chad Gable, but they actually cost Jey Uso. I think it's a theory that could be. So don't discount the fact that Jey Uso has appeared on the promotional posters as maybe something that works against him. I think it's a bit of a red herring, and I think something's going down. But the other side of that is Jey Uso at some point feels like he's got to be brought back into the Bloodline story. So will we see the Bloodline and Jey Uso have any kind of interaction, whether it be backstage, because we know they're going to be appearing on the same card. We're going to talk about that tag team match in just a little bit. But Jey Uso, as I say, appears on the promotional. He's still over as Rover with all the fans. He has that great entrance. They started Monday Night Raw with him up in the the refreshment area, going through the crowd, etc., and people are hot for it. So Jey Uso could be considered a favorite, but judging by the chat, LA Knight is the one that people are kind of hoping they would. But yeah, we've got some comments in here. What have we got? Let's go back a little bit. Mark says, here's what I think is happening. Drew wins, then fails to cash in the same night due to CM Punk. Normar's in. Good to see you. Some are picking McIntyre to win and cash in on Priest, but that would derail Punk and McIntyre at Slam. Definitely seems to be the way that they're going to go with that. Mark, no, Punk is going to cost Drew from winning tomorrow, in my opinion. I think Jake's saying it's going to cost him from winning the briefcase. Makes no sense, Jay winning though if you're doing Bloodline War down the line, unless you start it now. Exactly. So there's quite a few like different strands to all these different things. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get through it, because really on paper, Andrade and Carmelo Hayes are the only ones who don't really have anything going on out on the outside of this match, and they kind of live in isolation. They can very much concentrate on it here, but both of those would be very interesting choice, and you'd have to say it would be a big upset if either of those was to win it. Mark, that's why I'm almost certain LA Knight will win unless Logan is planned to beat LA Knight. Exactly. Could Logan Paul get involved in this one as well? It just feels like a lot could happen. And I think the most I've ever seen anyone in a ladder match get involved is back at one of those TLC matches where each team seemed to have someone that would help, like Rhino, Spike Dudley, Lisa, etc. But it kind of made sense because they're all within those groups. So, yeah, very strange. Jake says, where did he cashing in from the US title come from? Can you even do that? Aren't you allowed to cash in on world titles? Well, you don't have to cash in on the world titles because if you remember, Austin Theory cashed in on the US title and failed, I think, and then got the US title a couple of weeks later. But yeah, he kind of said that he had to do it because if you were trying to cash in on Roman, you were always going to contend with the Bloodline. So it was like kind of that side of things. So it's not exclusive to the world titles. I feel like there's a lot of heavy lifting to do if you don't cash in on the world titles, because that kind of made sense at the time when the Bloodline was costing anyone who was going for a title shot. But the guys who are involved here very much seem to, it wouldn't make sense for them as a character and a gimmick, or like any kind of plausible like reason why they would do that. So I just don't know why they would do it, but it is a possibility. We've been seeing Chad Gable terrorized or kind of like followed, and well, a lot of people thought he'd been killed in the massacre backstage a few weeks back when the White Six were first introduced and debuted. He's obviously gone back to being a scumbag heel, still trying to get inside Otis's ear, things like that. I just think it'd be really interesting to see if he somehow managed to pick this up. But again, would Chad Gable be realistic to go after one of the world titles at this stage, or is his story very much we have to see how this works out with the Wyatt Six? So I'm not really sure where that factors in, but I say it'd be an interesting theory to see if he does cash in, or they kind of go for Jey Uso instead. A lot of chatter said about LA Knight, but here we go. That's Logan Paul. He did pick up a victory in that triple threat last week, and then they had the big showdown. For us in the UK, it's a little bit confusing because we don't really follow religiously. There's obviously people who will do, but a lot of the sort of wrestling fans might not have that crossover of knowing who those basketball players were that were involved at Madison Square Gardens last week. But it sounded like a cool moment for those who did know. So if anyone cares to explain who's in the US and knows a little bit more about that situation, feel free. Just drop it in the comments. Then we're going to move on. Women's Money in the Bank match, which again, I don't think there's anyone this year that's like you could say is overwhelmingly the favorite. You've got a lot of people here who are building back up. Io Sky's an interesting one because she won last year, and I think she'll be one of the first ones to win it back to back. We've obviously had other ones who have won it like twice, like CM Punk back in the day when it was at WrestleMania. He's had a couple of Money in the Bank contracts, but a lot of people online seem to be putting their support behind either Tiffany Stratton or Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green would be a really kind of like funny one to go with because Money in the Bank would suit her character in the sense of like who she is. Being that Karen character and kind of like trying to, I guess, like use it as a circumstantial, like get involved at the best time, which is obviously what Money in the Bank's always supposed to be. You'd use it at the most opportune time. I think it's an easier one for her to win that off Bayley with the Money in the Bank in hands. But then you've got people like Naomi who've come back and she's not necessarily been in the sort of main event, but she's definitely been like featured heavily. Is this her chance to kind of like get her way back up onto the title scene? I don't think you're likely to give it to Lyra. She's getting like built up on the main roster, and they seem to have a lot of faith in her, which is cool to see. Obviously coming up as an NXT champion previously, and then Zoe Stark, who again is featured in some of the bigger matches. That render of her, whoever did this in WWE, like she made an enemy there because that's not a very good render of Zoe Stark. She's they've done something strange with the filter on her face or something there. But Zoe Stark's a great wrestler in the ring. I just don't. I think she's missing something personality-wise for people to really jump in on and kind of gravitate towards her, because she had that kind of big thing with Trish Stratus. Now, there's a lot of rumors that Trish Stratus, I think it might have been confirmed, she's going to host Money in the Bank with it being in Toronto. Well, I wait to see whether she get any kind of comeuppance from attacking Trish Stratus in that cage match way back when she was Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus were going at each other, and Zoe Stark was in the corner of Trish Stratus. But it's hard to look past Tiffany Stratton here. The company was very hot on her. There was that whole rumors that she'd said some things on social media, which had kind of pushed her back a little bit. But again, Money in the Bank put it on Tiffany Stratton. I feel like it's a match made in heaven. She's the kind of person, again, who could pull it off. I always feel like the briefcase works a lot better for a heel than it does for a face. And again, she's the kind of person who she could cash in, obviously not that night because Bayley's not got a match, but quite soon, or at the first opportunity, which might be SummerSlam. I just think putting it in the hands of Tiffany Stratton, who before she kind of moved into what she is now, she was the sort of daddy's little rich girl side of things, and having that Money in the Bank briefcase makes a lot of sense. So if I was making a prediction, I think it's going to be Tiffany Stratton. I'd like to see it with Chelsea Green. I just don't think that they would go that route because it's very sort of comedic if it were. We've got a couple more people who have joined us. Sped Kids 99, good to see you in. And Chris is in as well. Good to see you. Even as I always say, Tyson Fury, the Dosser, is in as well. That was Dosser with a D. There's a lot of the chat going in. Obviously, we always say, I'm sure it is here. I can just kind of see it going on. Make sure you're respectful. Everyone has opinions. Why it's brilliant. So as long as it's respectful, I don't need to get involved. And I know I just like to see the conversation going on between Mark and Jake here. But yeah, I think a lot of people are agreeing here. It's Tiffy time. Seeing Chris and Jake, Alpha Ginger all saying it's going to be Tiffany Stratton, who seems to be, she's in this weird kind of team with Nia Jax, which will make it quite interesting if she then goes in with the briefcase and ruins her chance of winning the belt. Because let's not forget, Nia Jax has that guaranteed shot at SummerSlam against Bayley after winning the Queen of the Ring. So that would be a good story to kind of go into that, where Tiffany stabs her in the back. So I'm going to need a little bit of help here, guys, because we did speak a lot last week. In fact, our Friday Night Feature last week was about the Bloodline, and we had quite a few people watching, and hopefully some of you are back again. I don't think it's actually been announced which members of the Bloodline are going to be involved here, and I don't know if they're doing that on purpose, but I don't think they've specifically said which three are going up against Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes. So if anyone knows that, please correct me, but I think we've just saying the Bloodline, and that's what it actually says on WWE's website as well. So it'd be interesting to see if they take Solo out, or are they going to have is Tama Tonga going to be in it? Is Jacob Fatu going to be in it? Is Tanga Loa going to be in it? So I don't know if we'll get a little bit more on SmackDown tonight, or if they're deliberately kind of being vague because they're just going to throw three of them out there, and that's the idea, is that you won't know who it is who's going to be involved. But for anyone who didn't see SmackDown last week, that was a great I thought it was a good episode of SmackDown. We got this beat down at the beginning, which was kind of setting up that Cody Rhodes, and everyone's fed up of it. Yeah, Mark, I saw this. This is the rumor that's kind of going around, is that Jacob Fatu, because of his criminal record, I think he was arrested for assault when he was younger. But I think it was widely reported by Sean Ross Sapp that he would be allowed to travel. It would be one of the first international ones he's done in his career. But I'm not 100% sure if that was ever confirmed or not. But it would also be weird if they have him on all these posters and on all the promotional artwork, and then he's not allowed to go. So I'm not sure how true that is. We'll see, I guess, because they're in SmackDown's in there tonight. So if he's there tonight, would prove that he could be there tomorrow. But maybe they were waiting to find out if he's got final sign off or whatever. But yeah, towards the end of SmackDown, we got this moment where Paul Heyman was asked to acknowledge Solo Sikoa as the head of the table and his tribal chief. And what a pop. I mean, I was there the night he got inducted into the Hall of Fame in Philadelphia, and that was a really cool moment. And like everyone stayed for Paul Heyman. They did it first because they wanted everyone to be there for Paul Heyman. But that pop in Madison Square Gardens when he said, "I acknowledge that you are not my tribal chief," that must go down as like one of the loudest, because like it was insane. And the fact that he, deliberately didn't go to sleep to make his eyes look bloodshot and red, hadn't shaved it down, he's let his hair go a little bit more grey. Dude's like getting on a little bit, and he's not a wrestler. He's never been a wrestler. He's obviously been happy to get in the ring occasionally, but taking a bump through the table, taking the Samoan spike, etc., taking a splash or a headbutt, fair play. Like, he just proves like week in, week out that Paul Heyman is one of the best of all time to ever do it on the microphone, as manager, whatever you want to kind of say. I can't rave enough about him. So I thought he was fantastic. If you want a really good feature that I wrote in the build up to the Hall of Fame on WrestleSphere, you can check that out, all about Paul Heyman. And I wax lyrical about how I think he's one of the best to do it. But yeah, fantastic moment. And it really gains something for Solo Sikoa as well. And that's the main thing, is Paul Heyman is really putting a lot of effort to make sure Solo gets over in this, because we're now seeing week after week Roman Reigns chants going on. People want Roman back. And they've managed to switch him into being a babyface without him actually even being there. He doesn't need to do anything. It's his lack of doing anything and everyone else doing that heavy lifting that's making people clamour to have him back, and as a face as well, which I think is incredible, seeing as he just couldn't get that kind of reception a few years ago. So fantastic from that point of view, and well done to everyone involved. But for this triple threat, this 6-man tag team, I think the Bloodline's going to win. I think they need to really solidify this, but it depends who's going to take the pin. I think what we'll be looking at moving forward is SummerSlam is probably going to be Solo Sikoa versus Cody for the title. So yeah, let's see how that one gets on. Bring us to the Intercontinental title match, or Intercontinental Championship match, where we've got Bron Breakker challenging Sami Zayn. Now, I thought Bron Breakker and Sami Zayn had a fantastic promo against each other on Monday. It's one of the things I don't think Bron Breakker's ever been too strong at in his time in NXT. They're doing it right. They're not keeping him on the microphone for too long. The crowd seems to like doing the dog barking stuff, but he's just proven week in, week out that he looks like an absolute killer. He doesn't take any prisoners. Some of the spears he's doing off the ropes, like so fast, and they look really snug, and he just comes across as an absolute beast, which is great. I always feel like it used to be the case of whoever gets the upper hand on the go home show wasn't going to walk out as the title. It'd be strange if Bron Breakker doesn't win this IC title, but I guess if you want to see Sami Zayn have like one final hurrah with the title, then make sure he defends it in Toronto, because it's in his home country. But that doesn't always work for that. Seeing a few comments coming through here, so just make sure. Cortland, Money in the Bank is tomorrow night. That is correct. It's SmackDown tonight, and then it will be Money in the Bank on Saturday. And then on Sunday, you've got NXT Heatwave, all from Toronto as well. Still a lot of conversation going on there. Mark says, for me, Breakker should beat him in 5 minutes. I do feel like if they're going to do it, they're going to have to make sure that Breakker looks really strong. But you don't want to completely ruin Sami Zayn's momentum. But at the moment, Bron Breakker is like a really sort of like hot prospect. He's going to he's been picking up wins left, right, and center. He's been destroying people, taking them out, taking no prisoners. But I just wonder if they use a little bit of his sort of inexperience and they lean into Sami Zayn being, the sort of wily, almost veteran in this circumstance to get the upper hand, which then, sends Bron Breakker off the deep end, and he kind of wipes out Sami after the match or something along those lines. I originally thought Bron Breakker might win this. I feel like maybe Sami Zayn's going to hold on to it one last time, just as a sort of like thank you for all the stuff he did with the Bloodline and the build-up afterwards. And with it being in Canada, I just think I want to give him one more big moment in his home country, and maybe he defends by the skin of his teeth. So I'm going to go with a Sami Zayn win, which I think a lot of people are saying it's going to be Bron. And Jake certainly thinks it's going to be as well. We'll keep moving. We're going to keep this like nice and bright, breezy. This is what has been speculated is to be the main event of tomorrow night for Money in the Bank, which is Seth Rollins is going to be going after Damian Priest for that World Championship, the WWE World Championship. There is a stipulation involved here that if Seth wins, then Damian Priest must leave the Judgment Day. And it's so difficult with all the JDs and stuff. If he doesn't and he actually wins, Seth goes to the back of the queue, back of the line. Again, lots of speculation as to how this is going to be booked. We've seen a lot of tension building in the Judgment Day with Liv Morgan being involved, but we've also seen Finn Balor seemingly getting a bit annoyed at the way that Damian Priest has been carrying on since winning the belt. They had some words that were exchanged on Monday. We saw the sort of back and forward where Finn came out and was trying to, beat up Seth beforehand, and Damian Priest kind of lost his temper and was saying that's not how I'm going to do this. He's trying to prove to Seth that he doesn't need the Judgment Day, and that's causing a little bit of a wrinkle in their plans. I have a feeling that maybe there's going to be some hijinks here where we think that Liv Morgan is going to help, and we think maybe we'll get some extra help from the Judgment Day, and they turn their back on Damian Priest. The reason why I think that is because when you look ahead to SummerSlam, I think the idea of Damian Priest versus Gunther isn't going to sell too many people on that particular match, whereas Seth Rollins versus Gunther is a match that a lot of people would want to see. So it's kind of like one of those future bookings. And Damian Priest, if it was to be that Finn Balor costs him, Finn Balor versus Damian Priest is also a match that would be great because it's got a lot of storyline, and they can just build over the next few weeks into SummerSlam for that as well. So I do feel like there's going to be a bit of a twist here, and maybe Seth wins, because the other question is, if Seth does lose, where does that put him? Like on the card, who does he go to next? I can't see a way forward. Whereas I feel like him going up against Gunther is a money match that people are wanting. They hinted back in the build up to WrestleMania that it was something they wanted to see, and they had that respectful kind of promo in the ring together. So that was kind of like heavily hinted that we'd get it at some point. But as Mark said, is it too early for him to drop it? And that's why he's gone for Damian Priest. Jake said Priest will win. Finn is going to beat him at SummerSlam. Seth could win here. There have been hints that Priest would turn face. And that's why I think maybe that's the direction they'll go in, because as Jake said there, Finn isn't going to beat him at SummerSlam in terms of the title, purely on the basis that match is already going to have Gunther in. So unless they kind of throw it into as a triple threat, but I don't know why they would. I just don't see Damian Priest versus Gunther as being a money match, unfortunately. Dr. Richard Valentine, Money in the Bank will be awesome. It's awesome to have you in, my friend. So thank you for joining us. But yeah, so there's a lot of potential for Money in the Bank to be a very good event where they kind of start to move things forward. And we've almost been stuck in a bit of a holding pattern the past few months because we've had a lot of the international premium live events, which is cool. It's great. You get these massive like kind of crowd moments, but I also feel like they haven't really trusted those international events with any kind of serious story progression. And that's been a bit of an issue. I think they've been treated as a little bit of a sort of B pay-per-view, in my opinion. I don't know if other people would agree. But now that we're back stateside, and yes, this is up in Canada, but I feel like they are more likely to make some big moves, especially 1 month out or so from SummerSlam, which is just going to get bigger and bigger. They're starting to make it a 2-night event and things like that. So having it in a stadium this year in Cleveland, where a lot of the guys and superstars are from, is huge for them. So they're going to want to make a big impression, and they need to start moving the pieces in now for that card. So this is one of those matches where we could see it. The Money in the Bank match has a lot of potential booking headaches to go in. Like, how do you kind of get around some of those, and then how do you start building some people as well? So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening over the weekend in Toronto. We've also got NXT Heatwave. Now there's another kind of tight card. This is on the Sunday, so of course on the Saturday, as I said, we've got the Money in the Bank, but then Sunday we've also got NXT Heatwave. Now I know NXT is not everyone's cup of tea, but it's doing some fantastic things at the moment in terms of like building up the stars of tomorrow and using people who have been in the company before and then moving, putting them into prominent positions. So we've got the NXT Tag Team Championships are up. So you've got Nathan Fraser and Axiom versus Chase U. This is a storyline that's kind of going a bit around the houses in terms of like who do they trust and like, can they all be on the same page? Chase U's had this. I know it's not a favorite for everyone because this is a little bit high schooly and very much so for the Chase U. It's very college and university based, but we do have a tag team match. Can they all get on the same page to win this one? Can they trust who's in Chase U to help them get those tag team titles? We also have a women's NXT Women's Championship match as well. Roxanne Perez versus Lola Vice. We saw a interesting conversation between the two on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, depends when you watch it. Are people buying this Roxanne Perez as the champion? I still feel like there's a layer missing personally. Like the way she talks a very good game. I'm just yet to see like an absolutely outstanding match. I thought the match that she had against Jordan Grace was good and was building to something and then just kind of fell at the final hurdle. Lola Vice, we had this comical moment where she'd given us this amazingly like emotional speech about why she's doing what she's doing, got out the ring and then started doing her sort of like shaking her ass but while crying. It was very odd. It was very strange. And it just kind of detracted away from what should have been an amazing moment. So yeah, I don't know if I'm just buying either of these again. Like the women's division is a strange one in NXT because they obviously put a couple of them up. I thought, is it Blair Davenport? She would have been a fantastic one to have had the title at some point, but she's been moved up to SmackDown and not really used yet. She's had a couple of appearances, but nothing too big yet. And I think she would have been a perfect one to have the NXT title for a little while. The NXT North American Championship, the men's one, I should say, is on the line. Obafemi versus Wesley, and this is Wesley's last chance at the belt. Otherwise, I think he also has to go to the back of the queue, similar to Seth Rollins. I think Obafemi has overcome a lot of people's expectations. He obviously won that breakout tournament contract, cashed it in, won the North American Championship, and has had some great matches up until now. His best matches have probably been the triple threat ones. So having a one-on-one match between Obafemi and Wesley, who I think Wesley is fantastic and will one day be on the main roster for sure. I think it's happening. Potentially that Wesley is going to take this one here because what way to kind of like boost him back up, his stock back up, is to beat a giant who is seemingly just keeps holding that title. But I've doubted him before, and Obafemi keeps on winning, so I'm probably going to be wrong again. Chris makes a good point. I think NXT is Roxanne Perez is kind of holding on because they want that match, Roxanne Perez versus Julia, and Julia is kind of overcoming a wrist or a hand injury or something. So they're waiting for her to be fully fit and come across from Japan and go straight into the title. That could be a great shout, to be honest. Mark says Roxanne's just a filler champion until she drops it. I wonder if he agrees, and that's kind of just to Julia comes in. Lola Vice needs to stop the dancing crap. I don't mind it, like if it makes sense, like when she's, if that's who she is and she's got that kind of Latina flair and that's the way that she kind of like doing it. But I just feel like after you've cut a really emotional promo about your mum and like doing it for her and things like that, then it wasn't the time to do it. It was very, very odd. If you haven't seen it, go check it out because let me know your opinions. Just not for me, unfortunately. And then we've got the Women's North American Championship, which I believe is like the first time it's been on the Premium Live event since it came about and was won by Kalani Jordan. She's going to be defending against Sol Ruka. I think both of these are great. These are ones that they're going to build NXT around for a little while. Then they're going to build them up onto the main roster as well. They're both fantastic talent, very athletic, look great. And I think this is just one of those matches where let them have some time and just figure out like having what are probably a lot of AEW fans will like, because I think both of them are kind of very athletic, high flying, that side of things. And I think this is the kind of match that you would see on an AEW card. So how that translates onto NXT, we'll see. But they're both faces, and we're starting to see where like Sol Ruka wants the title more than anything. So again, face versus face, how does that work? Are we going to see someone do a little bit of a turn? But that soul snatcher that Sol Ruka does is fantastic, and it's one of those ones that potentially is going to look like the RKO meme that we got for ages. Like, can she hit it out of nowhere? But at first I thought, oh, it's a really difficult like one that you have to have them in a very specific place to ring. But she's proven in the last few weeks she'll do it on the outside, she'll do it in the corners, she'll do it on the ropes. You know, she's proven week out in, week out. It's a really cool move to see. And then we've got, as the main event, we're going to have the NXT champion, Trick Williams, is going against Javon Evans, who's on the right. You've got Ethan Page, who moved across from AEW at the top, and Sean Spears on the left-hand side there. So a fatal four-way match for the NXT championship. I think this is a really clever move. I still think Trick Williams is developing as a wrestler and a performer. I think he's great. He's got that aura. He's got the look. I think he's just wanting to make sure he builds up his experience in the ring before they can really kind of throw him into a one-on-one feud with someone. So I think this is a really clever way of building a few different people at the same time. A lot of people have been saying, what has Sean Spears actually done since he's come back? Well, you know, putting him into a title match, I think it's a great start for him. He's not really done too much up to now, but it's interesting to see as well. We sort of saw a mini alliance between Ethan Page and Sean Spears going up against Trick and Javon. And Javon's a great talent. If you haven't seen him before, he's a really cool. He calls himself Bouncy. So yeah, really interesting one to watch for the future. I think the company are really hot on him. The fans are really into him as well. So I think Javon Evans is going to go really far for WWE, as will Trick Williams. But let's say for now, having him in a fatal four-way match where he can kind of be a little bit protected in terms of any shortcomings he has, because outside of Ilya Dragunov, and to be quite honest, Ilya Dragunov could probably get a good match out of me. That's how talented he is. I don't think Trick Williams had many like all-time classics yet. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really cool one to watch, and it's a good position for all four guys to be in as well. So great stuff going on in NXT, great stuff going on all over WWE. So tune in all weekends. Let us know who you're looking forward to seeing on both NXT Heatwave and Money in the Bank as well. As they're going to keep it nice and short, because I think you guys prefer it rather than me talking for an hour. But it's been an absolute pleasure to have you all in. But it's really cool to see a lot of conversation going in as well, because that's what we're here for. We all love talking about wrestling. I love talking about wrestling with you guys. We will have, obviously, guests on in the future. Sam will be back very soon, I'm sure. But yeah, cool comments. Let's catch up on these. Honestly, bring Omos to NXT, having feud with Trick, because the title picture is low-key weak. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who they go for next in terms of like a title challenger moving out after this, because we've had Carmelo Hayes kind of gone for everyone that's believable to be up there, but they do seem to be doing this thing where they'll like rehabilitate people's characters. So is Omos someone that you could see down there? I don't think Omos versus Trick Williams would be one for the wrestling purists, though, unfortunately. So maybe they'll steer away from that. What have we got? Mark speculated because originally Cora Jade was meant to be the champion, and then she obviously got that really bad injury as well. A few bad ACL injuries down on an NXT in particular, which is a really nasty injury to get. And some people can, bounce back a little bit quicker, but it's one of those ones that's going to write you off for months, regardless of who you are, because of just where it is and the flexibility in your knee and building that back up to be able to, bear weight on it and strengthen it and everything like that. So Chris is saying Javon Evans looking to become the youngest NXT champion in history. It could be. I don't think it will be on Sunday, but I think he's going to be, around the main event picture for a little while. He's one of those ones who could benefit for having a little bit of a stint with the North American Championship, in my opinion. I'd also like to see Wes Lee versus Javon Evans. But if we're talking about dream matches, hey, give me Javon Evans versus Leon Slater, who is currently in TNA. The speculation that some of the NXT guys are going to be popping up on TNA pretty soon as well, who are heading towards Slammiversary as well, I believe. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us, guys. I'm going to call it there. because I think you've probably all got some great things to look forward to this weekend, and starting with SmackDown. If you didn't see, as I said earlier, on social media, there isn't going to be any SmackDown streams for a little while. The plan is to kind of give it a break. Sam's not going to be able to do those anymore, but he will be still kicking around. I believe Mr. Dan Hargreaves is going to be covering a live watch along of Money in the Bank tomorrow night. So definitely check out the Gimme Hell Yeah channel if you haven't already subscribed. Click that subscribe button, click that like button on this video. Make sure you follow us along. I think we're only a couple of followers away, subscribers away from 150. So if you haven't liked Wrestling Royalty, you haven't subscribed to Wrestling Royalty, please hit that button. Every single person who subscribes means a hell of a lot to me. And if you're spending your time with me, I'm very, very grateful for your company. And if you're watching this after the fact, thank you for watching. But I'm going to let you go. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy all the wrestling. I'm always around. Give me a message on Twitter. I'm at Sporsy19. Love to have any chats about wrestling. You can find me on there. And I'll catch you real soon. We'll be back next week with another Friday night feature. And who knows, maybe Sam will join us. Maybe we'll get someone else from Gimme Hell Yeah on with me as well. But for now, I've been Andy. This has been Gimme Hell Yeah and Wrestling Royalty. I'll catch you later, guys.